In this week's Parsha, Be'ikar, the inyan of mitzvahs Shmitas Haor. And we're going to see that the inyan of Kiyum mitzvahs Shmita is a very central point in the whole of Yiddishkeit, and it's Nogea, it's got an effect on the whole inyan of Gula and Golitz, that's one in some. And I want to begin with a question, and then we'll maybe tell a story like we usually do. But first of all, the question is, when Hashem created the world, do you think it makes sense to say that Hashem wanted that a man should run around so many hours a day just to get what he needs to eat? Not just for himself, but for his offspring, I suppose, you know. But he spends a tremendous amount, even somebody who doesn't work all that tremendously hard, but he gives away a lot of his time just looking for food, you know, and nowadays finding the wherewithal that will get you the food, you know. And even if he eventually gets food, it takes a lot of preparing. Yeah, he's got to mess around with cooking it and all sorts of inyanim. It's a long tircha. How do you call it? Tircha. A long effort and what do you call it? Preoccupation on the part of a mensch just to have what he eats. Would you suggest that that's what Hashem had in mind when he created man? No, l'chora not.
Not exclusively.
For example, let's take the animal kingdom. Yeah, the animals. Do they spend half of their time running around looking for their food? They spend a lot of time eating their food, maybe, yeah. But they don't have to run around looking for their food, because their food is available to them wherever they are. And on the contrary, the particular behemoth, he frequents an area where he has food, where his food is more likely to be found. And the same with the birds. Yeah, they don't spend huge hours and quarters of their time. What happened to Batal? He didn't show up in
I didn't see Bitzala.
Huh?
I was not able to find Bitzala.
He's not in his room?
He was not in his room.
Because you know, there has to be a little bit of basic seder, you know. People have to be in some way, you know, committed to the seder. But anyway, a behemoth, he just eats where he is. On the contrary, he hangs around there where he's got his food, because he doesn't have to chase around. And I feel, let's say he has to walk from here to the river edge or something, or he doesn't go running all over and spending a huge amount of his time making phone calls, also running a business and keeping all sorts of. He's just got his food ready. So that's, in Pashtus, what Hashem meant at the beginning of the creation with man. Hashem didn't mean that man should just run around most of his time looking for his food. No, Hashem meant that he should have it on the spot. And that's what we find that happens on Shemitah. We find that on Shemitah, a mensch is freed altogether of running around after his, I suppose he might have to do a couple of business deals or something, but he is freed, even though that may take a bit of effort on his part, but he's freed from the whole thing of running all around after his food. And he and the behemoths are equal in that regard. And therefore the Pasuk says that the whole thing of the Shemitah is l'cho u'levahem techo, for you and your animal, u'lechayo asher ba'artecha, and for the animal, wild or relatively wild animal that's in your land, everybody should eat together. Which means that there's a certain unity or binding together of the whole creation in the inyan of Shemitah. And that's l'chora what we have to assume was Hashem's kavanah when he put Adam v'Chava into Gan Eden. And the whole inyan of running around after his parnasa is part of the punishment. Hashem says to him, now, bezah sapercha teicholechem, you're going to have to eat now with the sweat of your brow. Oh, but that's part of the punishment, and that's part of the yerida, li'achrei ha'chet. Yeah, the chetei tzaddah. Oh, but li'osid lovei, when Moshiach will come, the Gemara tells us right near the end of Masechta Kesubas, the Gemara says that when Moshiach will come, even clothes will grow on trees. No. And how much more so, ready, baked, what we consider nowadays baked pieces of very tasty mazonas. It's your face. Yeah, well, that means they will grow on the trees.
Pizza.
In other words, the trees will, as it were, produce ready food. Not just food that needs a lot of difficult and tremendously difficult effort to make it ready for you to eat. No. So in that case, it would seem that the inyan of Shemitah is like a inyan of Le'osid Lo'ai. The whole inyan of Shemitah is like the ultimate return to what Hashem really meant in the inyan of the creation. And on Shemitah, you're supposed to live how?
So,
you're supposed to live in a way that was originally meant that way. I don't understand what these guys are. Entschuldige, ze gedachten nog met tegen. Wer kommt nicht? Ze doen gedachten. Weil sie tun, was sie willen. Sie kommen nicht in Europa.
Offiziell verstehe ich.
Sie sind nicht verständig.
Offiziell verstehe ich, Rabbi Thompson oder Rabbi festmacht auf...
Sie sind nicht verständig, was tut sie da?
Verstehe ich nicht. Da reden sie, also so mehr Achtung geben. Da reden sie,
Ja.
als darf mehr Achtung geben.
Aber es ist ein Mawal, wir lernen schön erzählen, der kommt rein spazieren, der spaziert rein. Das ist ein Mawal, der ganze Leben.
Hat gerecht?
Ja. Also also Come and sit down over here if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm sick, so I might have to, run out.
Kind of.
Nicht gut, he doesn't feel good. Margish tov.
Well, that's a good reason why you need to sit in. You'll feel better. And it just makes it more difficult for me. I got a shrey to reach you. So. Anyway, whatever. Also, if you don't mind me making a remark, the davening's become very quick lately.
Very quick. Okay.
I don't quite follow, It's mommy, you
You think it should be
quick,
it should be slower?
That's the way they want
It should be slower. Okay.
I find it hard to understand, But anyway, you notice how it goes very quick. Mommy's by 5 to 10. Everything's finished. Mommy, everybody clears out quickly, In the old days in Kwakabad, we worked on it, and we had everybody davening slow.
How long should it
The
go?
minion had to take a certain amount of time.
How long should it go?
It's all over. You have to come on time, boy. I'm sorry.
I just lost track of time.
Oh, I may learn. Let's go back to our thing, but I find it rather valuable, The davening goes very quick, and I sort of, in the old days in Kwakabad, we used to have the guys on the country, remember? Yeah, we used to work very hard. No hurrying by the davening. It would just be, we used to go according to a certain amount of time. That the psuki doesn't run, no matter what, it had to take so much time. And Bilhas, Krishna, no matter what, it takes so much time. Yeah. And you can only start the Chazor Shoshat after a certain time. And so people used to, and that was in Lubavitch, that was the way it was. There was a tremendous emphasis. The Rebbe Shop said that one of the whole reasons he founded Tomchei Tmima was to teach the Bufferim how to daven. Very interesting.
Wow.
Anyway, let's get back to our thing. So what happens is on Shemitah, everybody's the same, the Vahimas and the men. It returns to like how it was at the beginning of the creation. That's how Hashem wanted it. But that demands from the mensch a certain effort. And that's what we find. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the fact that Joseph HaTzadik, when he was imprisoned, by Potiphar for the whole thing that happened with his wife, he was in jail for 12 years. He was really only meant to be in jail 10 years. That's a long time. That's a tremendous amount of time. But he was like the Balabayit in the jail, and he had a very good position, but just the same. And he wanted to get out. He had to stay another 2 years. Are you familiar with the whole story? He had to stay another 2 years. Why? Because he asked the Saramashkim to mention him to Paro. Maybe that would help him get out. You follow? So it's brought down in the great Sforim that you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to make a reason in this world that something should happen. You're not mechuyav in everything, just absolutely to rely on Hashem. That's what some people say. For example, if a person were to just sit down on the couch and light up a cigar, and he were to say, listen, Hashem has to send me my parnasa. I don't know how that's going to be, but is that the right approach? L'chur or not? He has to do a little something, and then Hashem sends the bracha. So that's what Yosef did. And he came, why did he get punished for that? He had to stay another 2 years. Elamai, there's certain levels in bitachon. And a great person like Yosef, he should have had absolute bitachon. And genuine bitachon is when you don't see how it's going to happen, but you rely on Hashem and you trust in Him with perfect trust that it's going to happen. You follow? So, well, that's what I want to, and since he didn't, and he made Oh, that's like a weakness and a coming down from his great status, as if he got punished. He had to sit another 2 years in the jail. Yeah. So now I want to build a case today for something similar for that to a certain extent, it's got a connection with all of us. Right. So let's see what is the case. So we now turn to Vayikra 25, and it's Pasuk Yud Ches and Yud Tes. Vayikra 25, Pasuk Yud Ches and Yud Tes. So, after having told us several of the halachas of the Shemitah, and also how the yovel relates to the Shemitah, and to somebody selling his piece of land which came to him in the division of Eretz Yisrael to all the Eden, and that's guarded and got a connection with the yovel, and in Bamela with the Shemitah. Then the pasuk says, "Vasisam es chukoisai vesmishpotai tishmaru vasisam oisom." You should make sure you do all of my statutes and all of my more understandable mitzvahs, and you should guard them and keep them. V'yishavtem al ha'oretz levetach, and then you will sit on the country. How do you call it? Safely. You will sit with absolute safety on the land. Then the next pasuk says, "V'nosno ha'oretz piriyah," and if you will guard all of my statutes, then the country will give its fruit. Yeah, v'achaltom lasoiva, and you will eat everything in a way that you'll be, how do you call it? You'll feel satisfied. V'yishavtem lovetach aleiha, and you will sit safely on the land. So, as itself, here we have a statement which is repeated twice almost in one pasuk after the other. First of all, it says, if you keep all the laws of the Shemitah and the yovel, then you will sit on the country loveta, with safety. And then it says in the next pasuk that the country will give its fruit, and you will eat to full satisfaction, and you will sit in safety on the land. So I asked myself the question, I've just been told I'm going to sit safely on the land. What does he repeat? You will sit on the land again, safely. So it comes along Rashi, and let's take a look at what Rashi said. Rashi says in chapter Yud Ches, "V'yoshavtem al ha'oretz levetach," and you will sit on the country to safety if you do all the laws of the Shemitah and the yovel. Then so Rashi said, "Sheba'oven Shemitah Yisrael goylim." He said, "Rahmanin Atlan, if you didn't sin against the Shemitah, then they go into Golas, Rahmanin Atlan." Shenema, later on in the next parsha, in parsha Chukoisai, it's written, "Oz tilta ha'oretz es shabseiseyam." That the land, when you've been sent away from the land will say, "Oh, now I'm going to rest because these guys are not around to dream me anymore." So the land will rest all of its Shabbosis when you're already in the Golas, Rahman in Islam. Yeah. Yeah. V'shivim shona shel Golas Bavel. The first Golas they were in was the Babylonian Golas. Well, that was 70 years. So Rashi says, "Keneged shivim shmitas shebetelim hoyu." He said that's got to do because shivim shmitas they didn't keep while they were on the land. Yeah. there were 70 shmitas that they didn't keep. They set 70 years in Golas, in the first Golas, the Golas above them, and then they came back to Eretz Yisrael. And later on, over in Pasha B'chukoisai, on that passage that he just quoted, Oz Tirtzu Oretz Shabsisaya, Rashi goes into detail, a big long Rashi like this. And he goes into detail about all the different shmitas that they didn't keep and how they didn't keep them and who were the kings at that time. A whole Rashi tells a whole historical thing to prove his case that if they'd have kept the shmitas, they would never have gone into God. But since they didn't keep the shmitas, therefore they went to God. And you might say, well, listen, that's a Mefurish Mishnah. You guys learn every Shabbos. Pirkei Avos, I hope. It's in the 5th parak of Pirkei Avos, not far from the beginning. It's written, Golas, Bo Li'olam, Al Oven Shmitot, Bebitul Shmitas Ha'oret. So not keeping the Shmitas Ha'oret, that's how Golas comes into the world. It's a Mefurish Mishnah. That's what Rashi says there. But if you do keep the Shmita, then you won't have to worry about Golas. You will sit safely on the land. Right? That's one thing. The next thing is, Rashi says, V'yishavtem loveto halel. That's the second time round that it says. So Rashi says, what does that mean? Shaloi tidagu mishnas b'tzoyres. You won't have to worry about a famine year. A shnas b'tzoyres is called a famine year. You won't have to worry about famine, because everything is going to be all right. And you're going to have everything perfect. You're going to have everything to eat. What does it mean that you will eat in satisfaction? So Rashi says, even inside your intestines, in your kishkes, as it's called in Yiddish, tahei boy bracha. There will also be a blessing. And he brings it from the Torah Kohanim. And the Torah Kohanim says over there, you eat just a little bit, and you will feel you won't need to eat a lot. You'll just eat a little bit, and that will have a blessing inside your tummy, and that will make you feel as if you're eating a lot. So that's the second form of safety that Rashi is pointing out. So let's just think for a minute. It must be two different forms of safety. So the first one is what you might call your worry from outside your situation. You might be worried that forces outside you will come and push you into Golas. But if you keep Shemitah and you keep Yovel, then you don't have to worry. They're not going to come and take you into Golas, and that's safety from outside influences. However, there's another type of safety, which is not less important, and that is that you're in your own land, and you didn't go into Golas, but the land gives you trouble. Every now and then, it doesn't give good crops, or there's a famine, there's a this, or there's a that. And therefore, you don't live restfully, even though you didn't go into Golas. You're in your own land, but you're not living restfully. You're not living safely, because you don't know what's going to be the next tzara. And therefore, Rashi says you won't have to worry about that. If you keep the Shemitah, you won't have to worry about that. You'll be safe from all forms of famine or anything like that. In other words, inside the land where you are, everything's going to be all right. So we see that you're going to be safe, how to call it, complete, absolute. You're going to be safe from outside, and you will never go in Golas. You're going to be safe from inside, that the land will look after you. And not only the land will look after you, not only the land will look after you. These Pelopon Sayar, slavery of humanity. So the whole of the human race has become ruled by these ascetas.
Yeah.
Absolutely enslaved. Avamela comes out that it's an ideal existence. So therefore Rashi says, if you live an ideal existence and you live in a way that you are beyond nature, let's put it that way. In other words, that originally when Hashem created the world, he created Adam, Adam Arishan, that he should be higher than the world. He should be beyond nature. And the whole nature was a necessity for all the, the running of the world and the function of its relation to other bodies in the universe and so on and so on. But it wasn't meant that a yid should be absolutely thrown under nature. A yid should be beyond nature. Therefore, the Shmita takes you where you commit yourself to being beyond nature. You become in that regard like the behemoths. They don't worry because they got everything. There's like an amazing equality in the whole situation of life in the world, and everything's perfect. Rashi, you don't have to worry about the outside. That's all those. They will worry about those things, those who are under the teva. Oh, but you're the Mailamir teva, you'll sit safely, and you'll eat in such a way that you will be guarded in the best possible way. In other words, you'll eat just a little bit, and L'Mailamir teva, you will feel very satisfied from that. Right? That's what we might call an ideal situation. And therefore, the more a person becomes L'Mayla Me'ateva, and the more he commits himself to a spiritual life and to devoting himself to trying to work back towards what was his original perfection, he doesn't eat as much as what other people. And on the contrary, he's satisfied with a little bit. Yeah? They say, for example, there were certain days when the Rabbi just ate a piece of chocolate, and that was all. And on the days that he went to the oil, he never ate anything. He drank a glass of milk. Jacob. And there were some days when he came back from the oil, and then he made a sizable Fabringer, yeah. And he didn't eat anything, which means he'd been, except for a glass of milk, he'd been not eating the whole day, and then there's a big Fabringer, yeah. And only then the Rabbi went home, and then he probably had a bit of something, Yeah. In other words, the more you're involved in the ideal existence, what a man's about, the less you need to worry about what you put into your tummy. And there's a Tosfos right near the end of Kesuvos. We were just, and Tosfos says if you want to be shy to Torah, and you want to learn and know a lot of Torah, then put less food into your tummy. That's what he said, the less food you put into your tummy, the more you will be involved in learning. That's what Tosfos says. It's very famous in it. It's an ideal existence. The Torah is just showing me a working toward. Therefore, the Rebbe said, Moshiach. The Rebbe was so crazy about Moshiach because he lived already the type of life that we see here mapped out in this whole parsha, the whole inner of the Shemitah. Yeah, this whole inner of being beyond the nature of the world and not threatened, not from the outside. And the world is going to function your way. It's not going to cause you any trouble. And from the inside, you're also perfect. And you don't need a lot of time running around after food. And even when it's not Shemitah, you'll be happy with a little bit of food. It's an amazing, a beautiful situation. Isn't it? Ain't not bad. So, what can we do? Things are really good, and Hashem meant things to be really good, but every now and then you can, as it were, mess it up. That's